wonderful humans of Earth. I am Jimmy Tripp, also known as BRAINWAVE, or BRAINWAVE, also known as Jimmy Tripp. It is the 1st of February today. Yes, February 1st, 2023, as many of you might know. And I don't know if I'll be uploading this today. It depends on how long it takes me to edit, or even how much of this even will need to be edited, or how much of it is uncut by the end. Might actually be a different day that this ends up being uploaded instead. I'm here to talk about some very hot takes, some very controversial things regarding how I perceive, people. If you're thinking, or you're wondering, or you're questioning yourself, or you're asking yourself, what is a good or bad person? Like, what does a good or bad person look like? So be prepared to hear some things that might seem like, they step on some toes, but feel very called to say this anyway. And I will not worry about stepping on eggshells anymore, or censoring my free speech anymore. I will not keep walking around what can feel like eggshells. If you drink caffeine, if you drink coffee, energy drinks, I don't think you're a bad or good person. If you drink alcohol, I don't think you're a bad or good person. If you smoke cannabis, I don't think you're a bad or good person. If you smoke cigarettes, nicotine or vape, I don't think you're a bad or good person. If you take psychedelic compounds like hallucinogens, like magic mushroom, psilocybin, smoke dimethyltryptamine, drink ayahuasca out in the jungle with a shaman, or take lysergic acid, dimethylamine, LSD acid, I don't think you're a bad or good person. And notice how I'm saying bad before I'm saying good, because I really want to emphasize and hit a message home here with that. It's important for me to emphasize first and foremost, I don't think you're a bad person, before I also say I don't think you're a good person. So if you, are into methamphetamine, or, crack cocaine or heroin, an actually very heavily physically and psychologically addictive substance, something that in my mind, makes a little bit more sense for it to stay Schedule 1 as a substance in the US. As much as I hope you get help and wouldn't want to enable you in that addiction, as much as I would hope that you, make that decision for yourself, I still believe that you are not a bad or good person because of it. If you play video games, say it's violent video games even, where there's lots of blood and gore and shooting and stuff, or stabbing, I don't think you're a bad or good person. If you watch certain movies, don't think you're a bad or good person. If you have a pornography addiction, or you chronically masturbate, I don't think you're a bad or good person for that. If you feel like you are someone who overeats, or like you might just eat too much, or you have an issue with figuring out what to do with your starting a diet, or maybe you don't exercise, maybe you don't go to the gym or do stretches, or maybe you're not staying in shape, I don't think you're a bad or good person for that. If you don't have much of a social life, maybe you're a bit of a recluse, or you're a little bit introverted even, I don't think you're a bad or good person for that. In fact, if you're on the autism spectrum, you probably really understand where I'm coming from here with that. if there are things that you were not previously aware of or conscious to or mindful of in your own life, just habits that you've been trying to break and trying to get free from, even if you're still struggling, or would consider yourself presently still struggling, I don't think you're a bad or good person for that. I don't think it's possible to necessarily be a bad or good person. I think you're just a person. What I'm trying to say with this is I think you're just a human. You're a human being. You're one of the animals in the animal kingdom. It's just we happen to associate ourselves as and address ourselves as being the most highly intelligent of the animals in the animal kingdom, the most highly consciously evolved. If you have a religious affiliation or don't have a religious affiliation, if you go to church or don't go to church on Sundays or Wednesdays, I don't think you're a bad or good person for that. If you have a political affiliation or don't have a political affiliation, or it feels at times like it is your life's quest or mission to be a advocate for social justice and truth, I don't think you're necessarily a bad or a good person for that either. What I'm trying to say is that what makes you closer to good or bad is in how you're treating other people.
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
And how you're treating yourself. How are you treating yourself? How are you loving yourself? How are you treating other people? How are you loving other people?
Oh yeah, it's all coming together.
If you can figure that out, you can figure out if you fall closer to what would be considered a good person or a bad person. But at the end of the day, I still think that, there are choices, there are habits, there are things we can be involved in that can lead to good outcomes or bad outcomes. And you will know which that is by the time you reach that point for yourself. Eventually you just know. Eventually you say to yourself, hey, maybe this particular habit is really not helping me to grow anymore like I thought it was. Or maybe this particular habit over here actually is really, helping me a lot. Maybe this should become routine, whatever this might be. And that is something that no one else can tell you what is objective truth about that, whatever that might be in particular for you, specifically for you. You're the only one that at the end of the day will know whether or not you are participating in something or have a habit that is either making you a better person or breaking you. And sometimes it's important to understand that when you are broken, when you feel like something is starting to finally break you down, that is when you are made again. That's when you are remade. That's when you're transformed. That's when you're reborn. That's when what is then made again, what you make afterwards of it all, means really the most for your own life and for the lives of others around you. Now, by saying all of this, I'm not saying that we should just, enable our friends' habits or our family's habits. If there's something that, might not be, be the greatest thing for them. Like, let's say that you see someone who is a chronic sugar addict. They're addicted to sugar. They cannot stop eating sugar. And it's killing them. You don't want to enable them, but at the same time, you feel like it would be rude to say something about it. To say, hey, I think you should, cut back on that, that sugar. Maybe, because, then it's immediately perceived in our culture today as being rude or impolite. It's seen as sometimes even fat shaming or weight shaming. And it's important to make it very clear that that is not what's happening here. As long as you have intention, as long as you have good intention. Intention is everything. The way you say what you're trying to say to someone is everything. Don't belittle or degrade or ridicule someone, when things don't seem like they're going very well in their lives, or they seem like they're in this habit that you would, you have the bias or the prejudice that says in your mind, this is not a good thing for them. Just because we can't agree with certain lifestyles or agree with certain beliefs, just because we can't necessarily believe something, would be beneficial for a particular person, because we can't believe that it would be beneficial for ourselves, doesn't mean it's not actually beneficial for that person. And then, on the flip side of that coin, it's still possible for that very thing to be very destructive and very, very, not so great for that person. But the message I'm trying to hit home here this morning at, 7:40 a.m. is that you shouldn't see people as good or bad because of these kinds of habits or choices or addictions or temptations that they fall into. If you want to look at this from a scriptural or biblical perspective here, the idea is that sin is anything. By definition, sin is anything that separates us from God. So sin is anything that in the present moment is not necessarily garnering more awareness or consciousness of the Holy Spirit. So you could say with that logic, with that reasoning, that anything can be sin. Anything. It's just we are interesting human creatures. We're interesting animals in the animal kingdom because we have this habit of picking and choosing our favorites. It's our prosperity gospel. We have a habit of saying this is right because I was told this is right, and this is wrong because I was told this was wrong. And it's not always that black and white. It really is not always that black and white. So if you are someone that considers yourself a currently struggling addict within just anything at all, whether it is normalized and accepted in our culture or stigmatized and demonized and considered illicit or illegal in our culture, no matter what it is, understand that you are less alone than you think you are. And at the end of the day, you have to be the one that determines if something is actually helping your life or not. And then it has to be backed up with actions and fruit to prove it. Is that cannabis helping you to think more clearly? You'll know in the coming months when, you try to stop smoking that cannabis again. Is that caffeine, that coffee you drink every day, helping you to really stay stimulated and focused? Or are you getting more anxiety and paranoia and unnecessary fears, feeling more frantic throughout the day and starting to get more like, health problems, physical health problems like heart palpitations, stuff of the sort? Is that alcohol really helping you to take the edge off and, feel some relief at the end of a hard week? Or are you starting to feel it add up and it's feeling like it's taking years off your life, and suddenly you don't know if you're actually thinking as clearly as you thought you used to, or, you don't feel as sober as you used to feel? Are those psychedelics really helping to open your eyes and really truly help you feel conscious and more awake? Or are they sending you into a hallucinatory persisting perception disorder, HPPD, where you don't actually seem to leave the hallucination? You suddenly do not know what the difference is between the hallucination and between whatever this thing we call reality actually is. These are all things to consider, Is that addiction to pornography really helping you to feel more connected, and more connected to your sexuality? And is it helping you to improve your intimacy in relationships with others? Or is it turning out that that addiction to pornography is actually deterring, yeah, that's the word, deterring you and holding you back? It's becoming a stumbling block or an obstacle. Does it turn out that it's actually keeping you from going out and making more friendships and connections, or, you know, finding a girlfriend, you know, like, or a wife, you know? So all very important things to consider. And one thing I will say about the pornography industry is that it's very hard for me to be able to look at it with the lens of, you know, it's just all good or all bad, you know, either or. Because on one hand, I can see people who they make a living with it, and we cannot discredit that. But then on the other hand, you have to look at the dark side of it, the very dark side of it. And this is all, you know, outside of religion here, religious association. This is looking at it from the lens of separation of church and state. This is looking at it like, okay, what is the dark side of this industry? Not what, you know, something like scripture would say about it, but what is it doing? What is it doing to men and women? Is it desensitizing men and women? Is it depersonalizing them? Is it training us to feel more like machines and robots, artificial, stuck in a digital dimension that we can't seem to escape, where we feel bound and chained to the website that we enter each and every time we open our browser and go into incognito mode? What is it doing to exploit women, men and women both? How many people don't actually feel like they have a choice in that industry? How many people are forced into that industry, sold into that industry? How many underage people are in that industry? You know, how much sex slavery, sex trade is involved in this industry? These are all very, very, very important things to consider when trying to look at it with less bias. Because again, I understand the girl or the guy out there that has an OnlyFans page and they're trying to, you know, make rent. They're trying to survive. They're trying to live. And you can't tell me that that's any different than selling your body, working in retail, or like stocking shelves, you know, or being a trade worker and doing construction or doing anything else. You know, it's still selling your body either way for, you know, financial profit or gain. So you have to understand there's the people out there trying to make a living with this stuff. But then there's the other dark side of it all where, you know, there's people that really had no choice. They were forced into this industry against their will, and they are exploited for it. You have to consider, you know, how many leaked nudes, leaked sexual pictures and videos there are out on the internet as well. You don't always know if what you're watching or, you know, viewing, it was actually consensual or not. You never actually know. So yeah, it's just all kind of important stuff to consider. But again, you know, as long as if you have a good heart, if you have a good heart with good intentions and love for others, I'm not going to judge you for what it is that you believe or don't believe, or what addiction or struggle you are in. How could I judge when I have my own struggles? How could I? I can't. It would be hypocritical. And it would just not help progress society or culture or the world in any way, in any constructive, good way. You know, judgment is, comparison is the thief of joy. And Jesus said that, before you judge another person, make sure you've gotten rid of that log, that massive log, that tree, I dare say, that whole forest, the entire forest, all the woods from your eyes before you look at that neighbor's stick or that twig. Sometimes it's even a twig. So yeah, just some food for thought. Again, I don't see you as a good or bad person for any of this. What I look at is, how are you treating other people in your life? And how are you treating yourself? How are you loving others, and how are you loving yourself? And when I say love, love yourself, I don't mean like self-absorbed, self-centered narcissism. I mean, how are you authentically loving yourself to where you give to yourself in order to reach a place where you can give to others as well? You're thinking of others, but you understand that in order to focus on others, you have to make sure that you are pouring back into your own life. So how are you loving yourself, and how are you loving others around you? That's what I look for. That's what I look at. And yeah, it has nothing to do with whether you cuss or whether you drink, whether you smoke, whether you are into porn, or, unless it's like, porn of minors, or like, child pornography. That's a different case. Very prayerfully hope that you navigate out of that place if you are in that place. That is not a good place. It's a very dark place. So anyway, yeah, I hope you get something out of this message. I really do. I hope this doesn't seem like it's stepping on too many toes here. If it feels like some eggshells, some personal eggshells or biases or prejudices or opinions were stepped on here, cracked into pieces, I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry there, because, like I said, I will be uncensored, and I will, not worry so much anymore about whether the eggshells of others are being stepped on or not when conveying my own personal thoughts and feelings on things. Like, I feel like I was led or called to share this message with you this morning. So this message might reach your ears tomorrow, it might reach your ears the next couple days, it might reach your ears next week. Never know. And this might never even make it into a video. This is what I would say is episode 3 of the TakeATripp podcast. I am still looking for guests to feature on this podcast. So if you are perhaps interested in having your thoughts and opinions and your way of life heard, if you are a good-intentioned, good-hearted individual who wants to see the betterment of humanity, and especially if you make music or any kind of art whatsoever, oh yeah, please reach out to me. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to actually have you on this podcast. So yeah, that's episode 3 of the TakeATripp podcast. Yeah. And please, I'm being serious here too. If you feel like you are in an addiction that is beginning to really destroy your life, it's really not leading to anything beneficial for yourself or for others around you. I seek and I urge you, I implore that from a healthy place of understanding and without bias, to go seek help. Seek help if you need help. Seek counseling if you need counseling. Seek therapy if you need therapy. Seek medication if you need medication. Talk to people if you need to talk to people. Go to a church if you need to go to a church. Read a Bible if you need to read a Bible. Read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu with Taoism if you need to read the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu with Taoism. Book of the Way in Chinese. Whatever it is you need to do, if you need to meditate, if you need to do yoga, if you need to exercise, go on more walks outside in the morning, walk your dog, talk out loud to yourself and seem like a crazy person when you're alone. Do whatever it is you need to do. I implore you to seek help, whatever help might look like for you in your particular, very subjective, not objective, but subjective situation. Because only you will know what that looks like. Because every one of us has a different background. Every one of us has a different history. Every one of us has a different trauma we have gone through. Usually if you are coping in a way that, it doesn't look like moderation. It looks like you are overindulging in any one thing or the other. It's usually indicative of a greater wound, a trauma that is not being dealt with. And so I would greatly implore you to seek ways to make what is unconscious to you, or what has become unconscious to you, conscious again. Bring it to the surface, even if it's difficult, because future you will thank you later. It will thank you for that. You will thank yourself later. Your family will thank you later. Your friends will thank you later for it. Whatever it is you need to cut out, or whatever it is you need to start doing or taking. Just, seek that. So, yeah, that's really all I can really say here with this one today. It's going on 30 minutes now. So, yes, I just felt very led and called to say this morning. So, yeah, I love you. I love you very, very much in a very, very creepy, scary, strange, peculiar, weird way. I love you. Yeah, let's get weird with it. That's how much I love you. No matter who you are watching this, assuming that you are, really on a mission to have good intention with a good heart and seek personal growth. Obviously, if you're using or manipulating or gaslighting or hurting others very intentionally, and you are trying to hurt other people and, break them, that's a different case. To you, I say, yeah, I should love you, but, go get help. Seriously. If that's you, if you fit that bracket, go get help immediately, because you are the one that needs the most help. So, yes. All right. Love you. Yeah. In a very platonic way, a very widespread collective way. I love you. Until next time, folks. Peace.